preparing to live stream. It says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. It always says that, but I don't believe it. It always takes a second. But we're going to check it out. So if anyone is watching, there we go. Now it should be live. So if you guys are watching, welcome. We are going to pop out the chat. What's up?
Sorry. There's your thumbnail. You're looks like you're just picking.
Oh, like nose. Picking my nose, fantastic. So I'll have to I'll have to modify that. You know, my dad was saying one time, he's like, "Oh, you touch your face too much in your videos." And I'm like, "It's dry out here, man. I'm itchy and stuff. I'm in the desert." Looks like the chat's working.
Right.
So yeah, so we don't have a scheduled guest for tonight, so we get to talk about whatever we want, which is awesome. Hopefully viewer questions. We got some interesting stuff going on with potentially with oil. I don't know how much you've heard about that, with that big cruise ship getting stuck in the not cruise ship, sorry, it's a giant like container ship stuck in the Suez Canal. So we could talk about that a little bit. Yep, exactly. Digging for gold. Chat is popping.
I think they would figure that out, how to ship oil from one location to another.
Yeah. Well, there are other ways. Apparently, about 8 to 10% of the world's oil goes through the Suez Canal. So not even a majority of it, but enough to make a difference. Wow. And also, then there was apparently, and I haven't confirmed this yet, but I'd heard that there was some kind of oil refinery in Indonesia that just caught fire as well, blew up or something. Yeah, I've left my bunker. Yeah, again, I haven't had a chance to. I told everybody I recently moved to an undisclosed location, still in the American Southwest. I'm still in Vegas, but different house, so I don't have any sort of interesting, cool background. All the stuff that was on the shelves is just piled around me in boxes right now. Moving as a prepper is not fun. Ammo crates, rice boxes, workout equipment, tools. It's a lot of heavy stuff.
You could set the precedent, though. You could really do something different, because all the preppers, they got all the gear, right? And you had the solar cooker there. I had the same one too. Fantastic.
Right. Awesome, yeah.
You know, we both know about your Cabbage Patch doll collection. Why don't you?
Of course.
A bunch of those. Your Barbie collection.
The My Buddies, all that stuff. Yeah. That would be one way to go with it.
Yeah. No, I'm. It works for me, man. It's just a white clear background. It looks all right.
Yeah. And also, if I do other videos on other non-prepping related things, it could always be a little easier. But it's still the pure white is a little bit weird. I think it's a little bit basic, and also I think it makes me look like redder and blotchier because it's like such a contrast. So I'm like, I need some colors mixing it up. Also, I just need to get some sun. I'm really white. It's starting to get that time of year. Getting a little warm finally. Time to get some sun.
It's cold and hot here, or cold and warm, I should say, here in Canada. Good evening, Donna, Mark, McCaslin.
SPQR. We got all some good recognizable names in here. So if you guys have anything that you want to talk about, like I already mentioned the ship in the Suez Canal. That's interesting because specifically it could affect oil prices. And some people think that it was done purposefully to affect oil prices. I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but it is very interesting that a channel that I mention quite frequently, Gregory Mannarino, he does mostly finance and economics, but he mentioned that because like several days before this happened with the ship, that may have been the day before, but he mentioned that because of all this money printing, they're not going to want it to look like inflation is causing all these prices rises in gas and everything else. So he was like, look for something to happen that they'll be able to use as an excuse as a rise in energy prices. And then that happened like the next day. So I was like, wow, it's a pretty interesting prediction.
Wow. That would be pretty sick to think that I guess it wouldn't be not plausible. Certainly we're seeing that with the certain stocks, cryptocurrencies, to suggest what you were saying with the intentionally spilling oil through the ship. I mean,
well, no, not even that they're like spilling it or whatever, but that now that it's blocked, so they can't, just anything that they can say like, oh, energy prices are going up because of this, not because of the fact that we've made trillions of dollars out of thin air in the past year.
Yeah, sad that they would do that.
Definitely.
We're going to think of a nickname here for your buddy Cincinnatus SPQ.
Yeah.
I think it's too long.
Yeah.
SPQR Cincinnati.
Well, I know his real name, but I'm not going to blast him on the internet.
Okay,
Can't
I'll
do
just go with
that.
Cincinnatus. But ladies
There
and
you go.
gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are here another powwow prepper trifecta show, and no guest tonight. If anybody on like guest wise wants to come on, send me your email. Email me at info@ontariopreppers.ca, and we'll send you a link. Jump on the chat here for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The breeze.
Exactly.
With me and Eric. Besides that, you know what? Maybe I'll talk about. I've been playing with. This is all for the Patreon stuff, but I've been playing with these remote switches lately,
Okay.
and for remote sort of purposes, I guess we'll say.
Oh, is that one of the ones you can plug pretty much anything into it and then you control it with the remote?
Yeah, 9-volt battery or 12-volt battery. Here's another one, and I've got a few different types because I want to experiment with just the different range. This one's
Right.
Intermittent when it turns on for a second, and this one will give a complete signal. But there's all these sort of fascinating things you can create if you've got these. Here's a third one I've got. I'll show here. I like this box. It's a little bit more robust and waterproof. 4 options here.
Nice.
And this is just a small relay switch, so I can be not anywhere. That's why I've got the 2 with the telescopic antennas, because I want greater range. And with this device, I can set off. You can get creative. So the public will find out about it. The Patreon members, you'll see what I'm talking about the next couple of weeks. Public in the next 3 to 4 months. Do we have a question here from McCaslin?
He says all the shooters in the last 2 weeks. Now, as of a few minutes ago, we have another one down in the Everglades that fired up a law enforcement officer. Hadn't heard about that one. But I definitely think that regardless of whether these events were staged or not, I mean, according to the FBI, there's mass shootings a lot, because a mass shootings is anytime anyone more than 4 or more people, I think, are shot in the same incident is considered a mass shooting. And so they're going to jump on them now and just publicize them a lot more now as well than if they're trying to push a gun control agenda.
What happened with the first one? Was it that serious?
Yeah, there was one it was in Colorado, I believe. I don't remember all the details of it. And there was some guy that was trying to take a bunch of guns into a grocery store, and they thwarted that one. But I forget where the guy was in Colorado, what he shot up. But that was fairly recently.
Isn't it sad how they will attribute that with the preparedness? So somebody could be a dentist, they could be a gardener, they could be a plumber on the weekends or whatever. But if they're a prepper, then the media always put that tagline on: prepper does this. Right.
Well, in this case, it was like a guy for like a Syrian immigrant of some kind. He'd been here a while, I think, but it was like Assad al-Alissa or whatever, it wasn't, and they're like this white man.
Yeah, it's getting pretty bad here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, imagine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kat. It's funny, you and me. I think you and me just ramble, and people they're in their own world of the chat.
Yeah, they came to talk to each other. They're like, guys, can you shut up for a minute? We got a chat going here.
They're just in their own little world here. This is the only show where the chat room is more popular than the
right. They're like, ignore us. Everyone's got their own things going. It's all good. Crazy. But yeah, so I mean, rising prices in energy is going to be a thing, I think, because we being energy independent, that's something that I've mentioned that I want to focus more on in the coming year, whether that's solar, slightly more stored gasoline, or a combination of the two. Focus more on energy independence, because up until this point, I'd mostly focused on preparations that don't require external energy, like the sun oven, propane cooking, things like that. Like, I don't really need power, but it's still always better to have that. Certainly something like gas. There's a lot of scenarios that are not even major shit the fan scenarios where there could be shortages. We saw in Florida a lot with hurricanes. There would be gas shortages all the time. You know what I mean? And now you're seeing this thing like the Suez Canal. It's certainly that could cause disruptions in the global supply, something along those lines. So there's always real world stuff like that happening.
And that's a very unique one, because
right,
as things normalize, whatever the new normal is, people need to travel. If there's inflation's that bad, the price of gas is astronomical. Like, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, I don't think we're ever going to run out of gas. It's just
No.
what's happening with inflation with the dollar. It's just too expensive
Right.
that people can't. People will be able to afford it. So what do you foresee?
Yeah, I think whether this event was purposeful or not, which is always hard to tell, I do agree with Greg Manorino talking about how they're going to use these things to say that that's why stuff's getting more expensive, and so no one blames it on the monetary policy. But to what extent, like I said, I think the Suez Canal is like 8% of the world's supply goes through there for oil. So it shouldn't be a massive, massive disruption in oil specifically. I mean, there's going to be a lot. Apparently, there's like $400 million a day worth of goods supposed to be traveling through there. And now they're saying it could be shut down for weeks while they try to fix this thing. So everyone's having to go around. So it's not just the oil, obviously, it's all the other stuff that's supposed to go through there. So there could be just people are saying that could cause another toilet paper disruption or whatever. So just any sort of goods that get shipped by sea now are going to have to go for the time being around the bottom of Africa, around the Cape, instead of going through the Suez Canal. So it adds a lot more time.
Yes,
and fuel cost and everything else.
More fuel, yeah. So naturally, forget inflation.
Right.
We're just going to go up in price anyways because of that.
Right. And both, and we still have the inflation. So.
Yeah, certainly. Did you look into any of the cryptocurrencies I mentioned any further?
No, I haven't, man. I have been so busy moving. I'm still like in the process of moving but I really am something I want to spend more time on too. Yeah, someone mentioned. Yeah, so a list would be great. No, I was just saying we had a comment that said it's actually 400 million per hour. I quote in the Suez Canal. I mentioned per day, but regardless, there's a mass amount of goods that are reliant on that being open.
Well, I'm gonna call it here.
Okay.
On the show. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not take my advice. In the chat window, and the link under the name Prepper Logic says Lima Yankee Kilo Echo.com. That's the URL. It's excuse me, it's the first, and they're based out of Switzerland. It's the first cryptocurrency exchange that said I think it's one of the first, they're going to relist XRP, which is a crypto that was.
And what was that called? What was that exchange called?
Link, LYKKE.
Huh.
.com.
Okay.
And this is the one that was shut down last December by the Security and Exchange Commission for what I think is a bunch of BS. I mean,
yeah, it seemed pretty thin on actual.
Yeah, the guy leaves the very next day, like he leaves his position. So I would strongly suggest, like I said, it's not financial advice, but I'm thinking as soon as this lawsuit is dropped, which is going to happen in the near future, this stock is going to go right on. But yeah, all these exchanges are listing. They're going to start slowly, but this company out of Switzerland is for U.S. citizens. So if you're interested in investing, and there's no affiliation, obviously. The stock is called XRP, and the security exchange or cryptocurrency exchange is LYKKE.
Okay.
And yeah, so any ideas if animal shortages are going to get better soon? It's from George Orwell, 2020.
I say no, I don't think so. Not soon, anyways. I mean, we'll be lucky if they get better within 5 years, I think, just with the way things are going. Certainly this administration, regardless of what they actually end up doing, the worry that they're going to keep trying to be more restrictive is going to increase demand a lot. And then you still have all the other supply shortages and issues that we've had leading up to this point. Like they're shutting down lead smelting factories and stuff to make it even harder to make. So it's not going to get any better, I don't think. It's certainly not in the short term. Hopefully in the medium term, maybe. But right now the prices are crazy. I mean, it's like 60 cents for basic 9mm, like Full Metal Jacket 9mm. And you can pay $1 a round for like 5.56 or stuff. That's just crazy. Crazy prices.
Yeah, I had days like that where it's like you want to shoot, but
yeah,
it's costing money. It's
right. I know. Like a day at the range, you could easily shoot 100 or 200 rounds without trying too hard. Now that's like $80 to $100, $150. It's like, ouch. And that's if you're shooting some of that. If you're shooting something bigger, 308, or God forbid anything bigger than that, like, oh, or more unique than
Oh,
the
yeah.
prices. And that's just regular like range ammo too. If you're trying to try out a new weapon with like hollow points or self-defense ammo, then it's just crazy prices.
Certainly
Gross.
is. Be willing. Jay, bought XRP from Canadian Exchange about 6 weeks ago. Good for you. This was specifically in America. The SEC told all the exchanges you can't list it. So all the exchanges like Coinbase, they put it on pause. Couldn't buy XRP anywhere in the US, which is only 5% of the market, ironically, but everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen with that legal case. Yeah, even 12 gauge, 20 gauge is pricey. I haven't been out lately. I don't know the prices up here. For being honest, I haven't bought a box in a little bit, so I got to get out.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah, I bought a few thousand rounds back when it was when 9 mil was like 40 cents a round or something, and I felt stupid, but I was like, I just got it. Like I can see this getting worse, and now it's like 60 cents a round. So I'm like, I guess I did the right thing, but it's still brutal.
Question here from First Glass. Did the Canadian government issue stimulus checks like here in the States? I'll tell you my position, then Eric, maybe you can share the.
Sure.
I always like when you swear first.
I think I probably have. I don't.
That's just, I don't know what it is. It's just like, okay, once you swear, then it's like it's open game. But
Yeah, open the floodgates.
The effery that is there in the stimulus checks. I've heard some stories, but I think that's one thing that our prime minister did that was cool. I don't know if you knew this, Eric, or not, but when this thing started happening last year, they said, okay, everybody, $2,000 a month.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
Work through this, and then things have gotten a little complex since then, but it's just straightforward across the board. You guys, what's going on? You get this much. This person gets this much. There's people waiting to get their checks, and
yeah, so it's not. I mean, the system itself is not that complicated in terms of who gets it. It was you get the full amount up to a threshold, then after that threshold, you get a partial amount prorated up to the cutoff where you don't get any. So, and I think that you don't get any after. It depends on the stimulus. The first one was around. It's somewhere between like 80 and 100 grand, depending on it. Where you might get some of it, but you don't get all of it. Anyone making less than 80 grand was getting all of it. But it was just arbitrary for amount of how much you get. It was only a one-time thing each time, wasn't ongoing every month. So we've only got like the $600 one and then like the $1,400 one. And that was just like each on its own. So it certainly wasn't very much. And also the way they based it was off of your previous year's tax return. So if you were making $100,000 because if you owned a restaurant, let's say, and then that restaurant is shut down, those people aren't getting any. Like the business owners aren't getting anything because last year they made 150K or whatever, but they're the ones who needed it most. And so the workers might get some, but then the business owners themselves aren't getting anything. So it's really not that good of a system for sure.
To me, you've got all these policies online, not on, well, some of them are through municipal, state level, local, state, city levels of all these emergency federal. Of all these like contingency plans that they have. And it's funny how they missed this one area. It's like, well, what do we do with all the people? I don't think they had this in writing in the past.
Right.
When you pull out a binder and say, okay, we're in a pandemic, people need to get paid because 75% of the population isn't working right now. What do we do? Oh, it says here on page 4.
Right. Yeah, I would have thought that was something that had been war gamed before, like for a more serious pandemic. Like what if it gets to the point where it's one of these movie viruses like Outbreak or something and nobody can go in the street? Like what was their plan in that situation? Did they have any? Or maybe their plan was only exclusively logistical in terms of how to deal with the virus and had nothing to do with economics, which would have been pretty massive oversight. But either way, it was ham-fisted and really poorly managed. Regardless, like I've mentioned, I think on last week's or the week before, regardless of what you decide to do, doing it inefficiently is always the worst way. So even if you think that we shouldn't have done direct payments to people or should have, either way, this was done very, very poorly. And it's always worse to do it badly than it is to do it well, even if it's something you shouldn't be doing.
Right. And the irony is if this happens again, they're not going to learn from this experience. They'll just be right. No, I'm not anti-government. Just to be clear, I'm not anti-government. I say this all the time. I'm anti-stupidity. Your homeboy Brian
Yeah, there he is.
Any thoughts? What are your thoughts? War with China. That's a very abstract.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the rhetoric heat up between China and the administration. They're going at it. I think if we were to go to war, I don't think they're going to attack like Red Dawn style, at least not anytime soon. But we really have the military is making very clear their emphasis is no longer on being the best fighting force, on the planet. They're really putting all these diversity measures and all sorts of stuff like that ahead of, and regardless of what you think about whether that's good or bad, the point is that's not the military's purpose. And anytime they start putting their focus on something other than what their main purpose should be, that main purpose is going to falter. And the main purpose of a military is to kill people and break things, like they always say. And so we're not going to be good at that anymore. And they purposefully are purging the ranks of people who don't agree with them politically. So I think we're going to get our ass kicked in any sort of major conflict in the future, for sure. Certainly with a country like China, who's already like just absolutely dedicated to winning at all costs and will do whatever the hell it takes. You know what I mean?
It certainly, and maybe you can fill me in on the political gibberish going back and forth between the U.S. and Chinese governments. I've been sort of inside news recently, but it certainly is it's almost like at the foundation of China's government. Their mantra, or their first philosophical statement is, "We must control all people." And everything's sort of built around that concept with how they run every other aspect of government and social society and whatnot. Lady T, right?
Yeah, and China makes their decisions based on what is best for them and their goals. They don't put their even as much as they're communist or whatever, their ideology is based around basically China first, to put it simply. So, and anytime we're putting like Cincinnati says, when you're more worried about how many pregnant trans women you have in the army than you are about like winning future conflicts, then it's going to be a problem when you face someone who's only worried about smashing their enemies.
Yeah, that's a funny one. Pregnant trans women on the battlefield. That's probably going to happen too. And you know what?
That's the type of stuff that they're currently arguing about. Literally, like they've had like official military Twitter accounts like going after people like Tucker Carlson because he made a comment about them wasting time paying for like transition surgeries and stuff like that. And then the military is like going after a civilian commentator. It's ridiculous. It's obvious that they're like official Twitter accounts and everything, like trying to show them what's up, and it's just ridiculous.
Right. Hot topic to me, man, because I've got very strong views about this. And most conservatives, most preppers are Republican and conservative.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And most are sort of against this sort of movement. And I really think the left out there is going to eat itself. I mean, this is a legitimate debate that somebody that wishes to chop off their dick or tits, excuse my language, but it's true. Transcends. Look, I get it. You're meant to be a golden retriever or whatever it is that you believe you want to believe. I don't agree with the forced rhetoric of I have to call you a man when you're biologically a woman.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Well, like I said, regardless of what you think about that issue, the military as a institution has a very specific mission that it has to accomplish. And when you let anything else interfere with that mission or become more important, then that mission is going to suffer. Bottom line, you know what I mean? When they're just going to let it get in the way of that. You can't serve two masters, as they say. So if they're basing their decisions on something other than being fighting ready, then that's going to suffer. And when other countries aren't worried about that, they're just worried about having the most dominant military that they can, then they're going to be slightly better at it or way better at it.
Because if you've got 100% of time and now it's only 20% of that time now has to be spent in administration and social issues with respect to all this left-wing ideology such as center right, then you're taking away that time which could have been better used to keep on the maintenance and uptake and training soldiers.
Exactly.
It's been 20 minutes, so I got to soar back because I'm pregnant.
Take my break, and you're like, they're shooting at us.
Number 47235, transgender rights. Hello, Dale. Thanks, man. Or woman.
Appreciate it.
What do you go for? Go for it.
What American would join a military that considers them domestic terrorists? And yeah, that's part of it too. So, like I mentioned, they're doing literal ideological purges, and they've tried to push out a lot of people who, they call it insurrection or whatever. Basically, anyone who's on the right of the current administration, they don't want them in there. And then, like you said, anyone who's not already in there, they're not going to join if they share those beliefs because they know they're going to be possibly kicked out, but at the very least ostracized or treated poorly. So it's going to suffer for that reason as well.
Agreed. 100% agree. I think there's certainly there has to be a healthy balance. I mean, on one end of the spectrum, as we've been talking about, we can't have people have leave time based on their feelings, or they're pregnant, or they gotta. I don't want to divulge too much into that because it's just too bizarre. I'm sure I'm going to offend the wrong person, but look, there has to be rights. There has to be some sort of ethical morality within the Army,
Right.
and it can't extend to compensate for your feelings. You can either do the task or you can't. That's ultimately what it comes down to. It can't be, well, I need to take a break because I feel I need to go to a safe space.
Right.
Stay, literally push it down, keep it in college. That's where it should end. These fucking rooms.
Yeah.
So I kind of, that's my point on that side. But the other spectrum, we can't be all Full Metal Jacket. If you saw where
where they're basically mentally abusing,
extremely abusive
people. Yeah, exactly, like abusive.
So there has, and not to suggest that there isn't that those are the two extreme polarities, but there has to be something, something in between.
Yeah, I think you can do things well and properly, and that doesn't necessarily involve, like you said, the Full Metal Jacket style of doing things. But when it comes, strictly speaking, when it comes to the military's prime mission of why they exist in the first place, the Full Metal Jacket version is far, far superior and preferable to one where they can't even accomplish that mission. Like the Full Metal Jacket version does the mission very, very well, just has negative side effects with, like you said, these traumatized people or whatever. The current version is just not even going to be able to accomplish the mission, and it will have all sorts of bizarre side effects.
That's actually a really good point. So if you're going to lean one way or the other, you would want to lean on the,
at least the military is effective in that version.
Yeah, exactly. They're effective. Right. You certainly don't want, it's kind of fun when you say effective too, it could be like really effective. Like everybody in the platoon, you have 5 minutes, you all have to take a dump.
Right. That's how it is. Yeah.
More questions, I think. What's China's problem? What China's problem is no children and an aging population. Was it a question or not?
Yeah, I mean they've had the one child policy for years. I think that they've recently relaxed that? Not like gotten rid of it, but if I'm not mistaken, they might have slightly changed it. But yeah, so they've had the one child policy for years. For those of you who aren't aware of what that is basically due to their population just exploding to be problematically large. They instituted a law or a rule basically where couples couldn't have more than one child to control population. The problem with that was most people, because of just wanting to carry on the family name and the social way that their society is structured, that they wanted males instead of female children. So they would abort a lot of the female kids for years and decades maybe. So now they have a massive imbalance as well, where there's way, way more males than there are females. It's like 60-40 or something like that. Like it's really skewed. So yeah, so it's really like a bunch of like incels who now they're probably going to be like, well, we'll just use them as angry soldiers to go take over Taiwan or Russia or something and expand our territory. So who knows what all kinds of problems that's going to cause.
You raise a really interesting point that I never considered before. And I want to share this more with the audience as well too, which is that we have armies. Historically, we've had armies. Through history, through time, countries, tribes want to protect their region. But who ever thought that you could disseminate an army internally through infecting them through policy? Because if it does, you've got an army, we'll just say they're Full Metal Jacket, maybe not that version exactly, but they're 100% effective. We use the same analogy. Now they're probably 80% effective because of all this other bullshit that they're bringing to the table.
Right. That they have to worry about all these other things now instead of just their mission.
Slowly, if you look at it exactly, if we're calling a spade, and we go right to the core, it's degrading the effectiveness and integrity of the army from the inside out. Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Exactly. It's pretty wild.
I'm going to say something. Lady, I think it was Lady T said, "Oh, I spent my stimulus on plates or vehicle, rather, a motorcycle." And I thought we're going to see a lot of that next year. The next year or two, we'll see like license plates, like COVID,
Stimmy. And speaking of memes, I didn't even have a because I still am caught up in the middle of moving everything. But I saw one of them. I'll have to describe it like an old man. But the meme was like the wife says, "Don't spend your stimulus on anything stupid." And you're like, "It's not stupid. His name is Stimba," and it was a lion. So
Alex McEwen, have you ever served in the Canadian military? No, I haven't. I've certainly partaked in a lot of exercises with a lot of preppers that have extensive experience in a wide variety of things, though. No, and no offense to Eric. I know that Eric is an exception in some respects because he embraces sort of various aspects of preparedness, more from a healthy perspective, where most of the military people that I've met that are into preparedness it's all security. Security is number one, right across.
That's what they know, yeah. So they'll have every gun and armor system and NVGs, and then they'll have like a day's worth of food or something.
Yeah, bullets, band-aids, beans sort of mentality. Which we'll probably do okay with, but if you're thinking about this more objectively, and there's just so many other areas, healthcare as an example.
It's certainly better than nothing, but it's probably not the optimal approach. Honestly, and I mentioned this before, I think the optimal approach is more of like a homesteading type situation because, like I've mentioned a lot of times, I think the standard for preparedness should be to have your whatever your lifestyle is, be as minimally disrupted as possible if there's any sort of event of any kind, from a power outage, job loss, all the way up to a major shift van event. And the best way to accomplish that is to have your main current lifestyle be one of like sustainability and things like that. So, but not everyone can swing that. I don't have a homestead. You know what I mean? I've done elements of it before, but out here in the desert, it's a little even more difficult. It's not a lot of land, not a lot of good weather for that, things like that.
It could serve to also benefit you in a lot of respects because people aren't going to be going out to the desert for resources.
Yeah.
But you hit the nail on the coffin there because it's something I've been talking about inadvertently for years in some of the earlier videos is if you're self-sustainable, it's good that you recognize that objectively as a prepper because a lot of preppers don't. If you're disconnected from the system, you rely on your own power, shelter, fire, even gardening, things like that. There's really only two things that should be a concern if and when SHTF, which is your personal health, immediate health, like shots.
Like if you need a surgery or something like appendicitis or something.
Yeah, and security, because you may not be on the police.
Right, if 100 people show up or something like that, yeah. But yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say along that lines of you said like you just basically not even noticing a difference. There was some book from way back when I've read excerpts from called like the Hermit Men of China or something like that. These guys who like lived, speaking of China, they lived in the mountains and were basically just out like rural hermits. And this guy went and was like talking to them to write a book. And this was decades ago. It's maybe in the 60s or something. So they're talking about the Cultural Revolution and Mao and all the crazy shit that happened in the country. And he asked him, like one of the hermits, like, "What did you think of the revolution?" He was like, "What revolution?" He literally like didn't even affect him because he just didn't even know what happened because he's just lived out in the mountains. And like, so that is the perfect example of what I was talking about, where his lifestyle didn't change. Like this massive cultural revolution, tens of millions of people died. There's armed conflict, food shortage. He didn't even know what happened. Now, it's not probably best to be that oblivious, but he was completely insulated from it because his lifestyle was already completely self-sufficient.
The Full Metal Jacket example.
Exactly. The full off the end there. When you live in a cave and like burning animal dung for warmth, you're really not going to notice if the there's a change in the tax laws or if food shortages or whatever.
Yeah. You take a shit in a bucket, throw it out the
Yeah,
side.
exactly. You go into town every 15 years to get a new bucket. That's about it.
That's funny, man.
But yeah, that's a perfect example of that concept.
Yeah, it sure is. That's funny. I've got a few memes.
Oh, good, because I really don't have any. Destiny
Okay.
said she sent one, but I'm not seeing it show up in my email yet.
I have to share them. I feel pressured
Okay.
to share them. I'm joking. Actually, we had a member, Doug, had sent me some memes, and thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. And he followed up and he said that they've been waiting for it. It is a lot of time has passed since I got the memes, so I appreciate your patience. And the sound is going to go funny as it always does for unknown
It's all good.
computer on the second screen, because this is my cell. It's just that it's better quality here, or at least visually it is, which is well, maybe that's not a good thing, is it? Right? You should have been. You ever see that on The Simpsons where they went to HD and Krusty the Clown like had the HD camera and they showed like a close up and he had like veins in his eyes.
I haven't seen that. That's funny though.
But HD and then like a detailed. And he was just
It is funny though, because when they came out with all these high def cameras, the newscasters all had like caked on makeup, and you're like, Jesus, I don't need to be counting these people's nose hairs. Like, let's take it back down to 2K or something. You're like, I don't even see in 4K. What am I looking at?
Yeah. All right. Well, we might as well keep. I gotta re-download Zoom here for a second, so we might as well just go into some more comments.
Right.
BLM, bad land management by the Kraken 2.0. I don't know what that means. I thought it was.
Oh, they were talking about BLM because someone mentioned that the Fed owns a big chunk of Nevada. Yeah, I think it is around 80%. Nevada has the highest percentage of federally owned land of any state in the country. So, which is interesting because it's pretty much going to stay rural for a long time. It's very barren land for the most part, but it does make it. And I think that's one of the benefits of being in a harsher environment for preparedness reasons, is that it's harder to get resources, but it's also harder for anyone else, including bad guys, to sustain themselves there. So in a major event, you could probably be pretty much on your own if you're in a well set up to survive in a place like that. It'll get bad quicker, as people run out of food and water and stuff much faster than they would in other areas. But if you can hunker down, then you might be on your own pretty soon too. Same goes for any incredibly cold or isolated place or anything like that.
Yeah, it's certainly. Well, I think you could probably break things down. If we're talking about thinking outside the box in terms of the types of people that survive, there's people that have nothing to do with preparedness that I think will, not a lot of them, but I think some of them will do okay for certain, because just the mechanisms and the pins in their brain will fire off. They will
Right.
preparedness for what it is. I think a lot of people are thinking.
It's noisy.
My audio is yeah, maybe. Sorry, Doug. I think maybe we'll have to do it next week. It's
you'll have to send them to me or something, and then we can do it.
We'll send them to you. I apologize. I know his wife was waiting patiently. It seemed like a very, very nice couple, and they'd sent me a whole bunch of funny memes. And
I'm really behind too. I know a bunch of people have sent me memes too, and I always am like, oh great, and then I forget to pull them off my emails, and then I don't have them ready. And sometimes when we have a guest, we never even get to them anyway, because we don't want to cut people off. But
the nature of the guest, I think, impacts it as well. Because we had the gentleman from the, he's got his PhD from Harvard.
Right.
He's from the U.S. Air Force guy.
Right. We don't want to be like, now pause for this ridiculous meme about like someone's ass or something.
Exactly. So there's certainly yeah. Maybe we got to find a different avenue.
I thought I had. Oh wait, I thought I had some meme that I was looking for that you guys hadn't seen before. All right, I think I do have a couple. Let me see if I can find them. Sorry, I gotta curate this, make sure I don't have anything weird show up. But I do have a couple. They're totally unrelated to anything, I think.
Okay. That's a very nice comment, Brian. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
We,
Oh man, this one is funny and it's not loading properly. Let me see. It's some meme I had, but it's not. It's really good because we were just talking about this concept too. So let me see if I can save it in a different format because it didn't want to. It just didn't want to open. All right, let's see if we can get it.
Save that in a different format.
Yeah.
George Orwell 2020. What is your opinion of the Grail water purifying bottle? Worth the cost for eliminating viruses? Well, I'm not familiar with it, and don't quote me on the numbers because I think it's at 0.2 for it's 0.002 for viruses from micron size. I mean, if it's either 0.002 or 0.004, don't quote me on the numbers. The whole point is if it can filter down to a specific micron size, then it's going to remove viruses, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I know the size is obviously a big deal.
In terms of, is it worth the cost? I think it depends on the filtration medium. How many cycles can you get through it? Is it like the Life Straw where you get so many cycles? Is it, it's used once and that's it? Is it something that's potentially reusable above and beyond? Reusable in a different sense, like a Sturry pen, which is ultraviolet light. It depends on power as opposed to filtration. So there's a lot of filtration methods out there. I think that here, I'll give you a quick story while Eric's looking for that photo. Here's a great story.
Okay.
I was hunting 2 years ago and the lake froze over. So I had to carry a bunch of gear out to, I had to do a thing. It was very difficult to get it because I go rural. I go very, very deep into the woods. And I got stuck on top of the ice. I actually have a video for it where I'm canoeing and I'm going in a zigzag pattern with the paddle. I destroyed the paddle because the lake froze. I went in, it was fine a few days ago, and then when I wanted to get out, it froze over. There's no other way to get out. So I was at a canoe on top of the ice, and it was didn't look strong enough for me to stand on. So I had to smash my paddle in and go, ugh, and I this way and zigzag that way.
Like ice breaking with your canoe?
I did for the first bit, and then the canoe was right over top of the.
Then you just slide it on the ice.
Slide it on the ice, and I had to take a shortcut. I couldn't canoe all the way back, so I finally got some land. I had to walk forever, and I mean, if you got deer on your back, didn't get a deer that year. Forget it. The deer, the canoe, all that gear, kilometers, and I get the Sturry pen because I'm thirsty.
Yeah,
really, really thirsty. First off, when I did the first load, all this gear, bad situation for me.
Yeah.
Dropped it there. It was like, man, I forgot. It was like I forgot the Sturry pen. Like it was like I want some water right now. Forgot, and I forgot. It was the load number 2 all the way back where I got to land. I had to go all the way back there. Long story short, it's November in Canada. I feel like swearing. You haven't sworn yet, so I can't.
Oh, I'm sure I have. You just haven't noticed it.
I got the low battery warning. And if you know the Sturry pen, it's you stir it for a minute or whatever it is, and it gives you a happy face and you can drink your water. And I couldn't do that. And I was thirsty because I'm lugging all this damn gear, right? So
yeah.
Different filtration systems for different scenarios. I mean,
I got this meme. I found it. Sorry to interrupt you. I was digging for it. My meme skills have been terrible lately, but here we got a few.
I apologize, Doug and Doug's wife.
Yeah, we'll get them on there.
I'll promise. Doesn't matter who we have next week for a guest. Promise to get your memes on next week.
All right, let me see. So we got. I haven't shared in so long. All right, that should work. Can you see that one?
I bet he's thinking about other women.
He says, I don't get it. The boat doesn't look that stuck. Talking about the Suez Canal one. And then the next one is, this is your urban cowboy plate carrier slash body armor. It's like denim with like fringe on it.
That's actually pretty good.
Load out in style. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that one a lot.
I like that.
Then we have the nobody, me at 3:23 a.m. just slamming water. I don't know why. I'm kind of a mouth breather, so that's why this one spoke to me. I wake up dry as hell because I'm always breathing through my mouth.
Yeah.
Then we got how to negotiate a higher salary, and he's just kicking the guy in the head. Oh, it's good stuff. And we have being a landlord takes no work. It's basically free money. So he says, so why don't you become one? And then he just gets mad. And the rage NPC face. And then this is the next one is the one that I was trying to find forever. Oh, I won't show it. Damn it. I found one that was opening and then man, god damn this thing. Let me see if I can find. I will not be defeated, but I'm gonna stop sharing. But I'm going to find it and just open it on the web page and then share that. How about that? Does that work?
Colorado biker. Hello. Mr. We gotta think of a cool nickname for him. Mr. CDP.
Yeah.
I still love my Polar Pure water purification bottle. Kills everything. I'm not familiar with that. Interesting.
All right, so this is the one I found. I don't know if I don't know what other shit is on this page if anyone's making fun of me. It's the first link I clicked on that had this meme. I just been trying so hard to get it out there.
Okay.
It's right here. It says, my underwear washing me buy more ammo, and it's all like blown out. Like your underwear is ripped to shreds, so you got to spend your money on ammo. That's it. That's the meme. That's the one I wanted to share. I just went on a mission that I had to get everyone to see this one. Yeah, someone says there's a video of a dude that has a COVID mask that looks like a pulled down COVID mask. Yeah, I've seen that. So the mask covers his whole face, but the top half of the mask is printed to look like his face, and then with the mask like pulled down over his chin. And so everyone comes up and like, you have to have it up over your mouth. And he's like, it is. What are you talking about? I'm like, I can see your mouth. And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow, people. Certainly a something that I didn't really foresee in a lot of respects. We had this pandemic and the sort of chain reaction. We're going to have financial issues. We're going to have addiction issues. We're going to have mental health crisis issues. Makes you wonder about the type of industries that people should be getting into now or training about now. Because we're going to,
right.
People a lot of financial advice and therapies and addiction counseling when this thing wraps up.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to get weird. That's why, but the main thing doesn't change. I do think financial stuff should be more of a focus than during any random times for preppers, but you don't want to ignore the other areas as well. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. All right. Warning among us, pure iodine. All right. I guess we're about to wrap up soon.
Yeah. That's good. I like the free flow shows. Do we have, what's that?
I was just telling people questions in all caps.
Yeah. Do you have any insights on who we have coming up in the future for guests?
I've got a martial artist who does some stick fighting.
Cool.
And he's done, he's a very intelligent guy. He's in law enforcement, and he's done this stick fighting routine.
Like a Eskrima.
I don't know the particular styles that he does, but he was talking about like stick fighting or even with a cane, which can act as quite the deterrent. And I was thinking about making a video about that with Dark Prepper Mindset. So I elaborate on this concept a lot, but if let's just say things were like Mad Max. I know you want them to be. You want to be the Lord.
I like the internet.
If they weren't at that level, but there's a moderate disaster, I'd almost want to play the role of being handicapped. So I would interact with people, and I'd have a cane with me. I'd always have a cane. I always move a little bit slow. I always have a little bit of limp, so that if that threat ever surfaced or happened, that moment, then I could go ninja or Superman or whatever you want to call it.
And they would be totally underestimating you at that point.
Exactly.
And then the cane obviously could have a sword in it or whatever too, if you figure that out.
yeah, you could definitely be creative. So his name's Brian, and I'm definitely going to be reaching out to him. I've got a friend, Karen Stevenson. She's an edible wild expert.
Nice.
Definitely go to her. I've got a gardening girl.
Cool.
She's a soil scientist. I'm definitely going to reach out to her. There's a pool of friends that I've got in
That's
my
awesome.
circle.
Someone mentioned the modern survivalist, Fernando. We've actually talked about him before, and I've done a live stream with him before. But the issue with him is he's in foreign, so the times don't always line up because he's on the other side of the world. So getting him on at this time, I don't know if that'd be feasible. But I'll hit him up. I've definitely talked to him in the past. He's fantastic.
Yeah, there's some people, even EJ Snyder. So we've chatted back and forth actually a few times.
Yeah, never worked out so far.
It just, it's a gamble with it was a gamble, but I think it was just circumstantial.
Yeah, it seems like it. Bad luck. Someone mentioned David the Good. I've actually been in talk. I've talked to him before, met him in person. He's fantastic. Definitely plan on hopefully having him on in the future. It's hard for him to make Sundays, so we're gonna see what we can do about that. But yeah.
There's like I reached out to the. This is so bad. She's a lesbian. That's Pepper Princess.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's nice enough, but
yeah, I've met her in person before. She said she'd come on at some point.
Well, maybe you got to do it because I got kind of a bad reputation for tracking other preppers in the past.
Yeah, I'll hit her up. Yeah, she's.
I'd be fair though. Like with what's that idiots? No, I shouldn't say idiot.
You're like, I'll be fair. This fucking idiot over here.
We're live. Yeah, I can't retract that. Okay, I'm talking about a completely different person now. There's a gentleman, and I think he's in California. He's got the Prepared Mind 101.
Yeah.
He's basically got a stogie and a thing of rum, and like that's his gig. He just talks for 10 to 15 minutes. Nice guy, and I kind of bashed him up a little bit. Like I'd be totally cool having a 1-to-1 face to face in your game. You know, there's other preppers out there that. Well, look, the gloves are off now. I might as well tell you. There's a lot of people on YouTube that call themselves preppers that have no reason to. They're full of shit. They use fear mongering. All they want to do is, look at their Amazon affiliate link account.
Yeah.
And that's okay for some of you. It's certainly okay to definitely profit from this, but there's others that are. It's clearly driven primarily. Keyword primarily.
Right.
I'd love to get them on and ask them. Okay, well, can you start a fire? Can you do this? Can you do that? But just shoot the shit back and forth with them and be reasonable.
Right. But like, but give them a real interview. Like, all right, Whitey. There is some that I've noticed which are interesting because I know they are legit because in the channels up till that point, whatever. But then you see them take that turn where they realize like this is what I'm actually, like you said, the Amazon affiliate link. And then after that point, all the videos become like fear, even just the titles. You see like this, will this guy like gun grab? And it's like everything is fear mongering. And it's just like, kind of sucks, but
that's it. That's the truth. And it's almost like human psychology because it's like you get all this attention and then it slowly dissipates or you profit and those profits go down a little bit and they're grabbing onto that rope and saying, how can I continue to get these people's attention? It's like, well, I need to have clickbait. I need to use fear. I need over the top fakeness. Body X politic meaning CP. I reached out to Nathan. I don't know, a few months ago. Nice guy. I've only honestly like 4 or 5 of his videos. That's all I've ever seen. That was years ago. And I know he's very popular here. He seems like a nice guy, but let's just say because I'm Canadian, I've got a bit of a bias with respect to, I'm careful with how I speak about him. And I knew him when he was a nobody, when he had 5K subs. And I've seen the numbers. Now people praise him like he's a, praise and like and respect him. And that's all I'm going to say on the topic.
Right on.
But sure, yeah, I'd love to have Nathan on. And good for him. It's clearly a business for him. Somebody referred to him as Canadian seller on my people page.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because he's never hid the fact that this is his business. You know what I mean? So, and I honestly get the impression from him specifically that his kind of what could be described as fear mongering videos, that he's earnest about them, that this is like really what he thinks, and it's just like that he is thinking this shit's gonna happen this way, you know. So I don't think he's being disingenuous, but I do think it kind of his stuff orients towards the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like his subject matter
Well,
more often than not.
I'd love to challenge him on this. He had a video 3, 4, 5 years ago. It was in his top 10 most best items. And somebody that's been practicing bushcraft for a very long time can clearly see if somebody's experienced or not based on the tools that they say,
True.
yes, the ultimate tool.
Right.
And I challenged him on one through a comment on this specific tool, and he didn't give me a very good response. He says, well, it's this. And I said, well, no, this one's cheaper. Well, it's, abundance. I said, no, you can go to any store and get this one. Well, it's blah, 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 blah. And there was a little bit of it was cool. Like I appreciated the engagement, and I like him. Nathan's a nice guy. He's good for him. Make money, I'm not here to make money through preparedness. I'm not.
I mean, yeah, I sell fishing kits, so I can't say too much about it. Yeah.
Do it, like go for it. But what I would suggest to people is that because you've got the best preppers out there are not the ones with 100K plus subs. That's all I got to say. Point in question, bug out Dan. He doesn't have a channel. He's not on YouTube. He doesn't have a blog. He's nothing to gain. But guess what, folks? I guarantee you, bar none, he is probably one of the most informative preparedness individuals you'll ever see on YouTube through the interviews we've done with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Mic drop.
Yep. Yeah. It's as good as place as any to leave off.
Yeah. It's kind of a downer. I didn't mean to battle. Like, okay, Nathan,
it's all good.
Good guy. I'd love to shoot the shit with him.
I'd love to have him on. Yeah.
But I'm calling a spade a spade. I'm not going to be like, hey man, so what's the newest product you got? Description. Everybody click the link, 10% off. No, I don't want to do any of that because it's a lie, and there's no integrity with that. But if you want to talk face to face, about your experience, I'd be happy to. You obviously made this into a business, and it's you and a camera, and it's done you well. But the truth is, we can talk about the truth. That's all I'll say. I got to be cool. He's Canadian, right? So I got to be cool.
Yeah, keep it fair. Cool deal. But yeah, I appreciate everybody watching. We got we'll just wrap it up. We went the whole hour, no sweat. See, we can do it on our own.
Dude, yeah. Okay, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, man.
No sweat, man. And next time you can email me those memes, and I'll try to throw them up there if my computer's working.
Sounds good.
But,
Ladies and gentlemen, wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
And we will see you